Hello and welcome to another edition of International Relations with Professor Pushpesh Pant, the program we curate for the candidates who are preparing for the IAS examinations. Our effort has been to cast a look far and near, focusing on issues, individuals, events which are of relevance to Indian foreign policy, our national interest, and how they are interrelated, how power equations change. This time we are going to change the format a little. Normally what we do when we address you, we take three topics maybe from three different countries or continents and try to see correlations between them and provide the historical context and speculate about the future course of events which might take place there. But this time what we are doing is that we are focusing on only one particular issue, that is the volcanic eruptions in the politics of Pakistan. And why we are doing it is for two reasons. A, we have noticed that most of you do not watch the programs more than 4 to 5 minutes, and then we don't even know whether you get back to it to cover and so on. So what we are going to cover, give you in small installments, encapsulated wisdom, which can be used by you. You can at least focus and digest the whole subject in one go, and maybe not to have to worry about for 30 minutes what has been spoken and what interests you and what doesn't interest you. We realize that most of you have been busy with preliminaries. As preliminaries are over, you might have more time to do this, but it is a bit frustrating to devote time and energy to a program lovingly, carefully, and then notice that the viewers only are interested in watching the first 2-3 minutes, the last 2-3 minutes, and that's all. And the comments which we repeatedly invite you have been not as frequent as we would have liked to. So we can only be of this much help to you if you watch the program with interest, you agree or disagree with what you have been explained, and then you ask questions, then it can be better. Why? There's one reason. The second reason is that what has been happening in Pakistan requires a proper background. So if you try to correlate it with something else, we were tempted to give you a program which would go into the SCO foreign minister's visit to India and then go into the events which has been happening in Pakistan. But the visit of the foreign ministers of SCO is of far lesser importance than what has been happening in Pakistan in recent weeks. So we shall concentrate on the volcanic eruptions in Pakistan and try to give you the historical context and background so you don't have to go elsewhere to understand what is happening. So international relations for UPSC, exam preparations with Professor Pushpesh Pant, that's the routine slide. Then we go to diplomatic developments, and there is just one issue, volcanic eruptions in Pakistan. And volcanic eruption in Pakistani politics has been a long time people were expecting. There was a simmering of the volcano and that explodes. Now what happens when a volcano explodes is that the lava flows out in different directions. There might be devastation by one large volcanic explosion. There might be several. There might be tectonic shifts. There might be tremors. There might be earthquake. And there might be polluting clouds of smoke. All that might happen with the volcanic explosion in Pakistan. What caused the volcanic explosion was the dramatic arrest of the ex-Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan. He had visited a court and he was going to register his presence in the court when the guards, rangers suddenly descended to the Pakistani High Court and arrested him, violating the sanctity of the High Court chambers by laying a charge that he was wanted for corruption charges. Now, Imran Khan obviously was presenting himself in the High Court in the context of a different summon which the High Court had issued. But this violation of judiciary's sanctity threw Imran Khan's supporters into a frenzy. This was a gross violation of separation of state, executive, and the Supreme Court, High Court, judiciary. So it sparked off nationwide violent protests. But what made them volcanic this time was that nothing like this has been experienced or encountered in Pakistan before. A general's house was set on fire in the Rawalpindi, and a general military headquarters was assaulted in Peshawar, and all this was unprecedented. The general sense has been shifted because what could the poor man have done when his house was being set fire by protesters? They were not peaceful, but could the army have opened fire on them? Created lots of innocent martyrs? poured oil on the flames of fire which were raging. But the targeting of the army by the protesters of Imran Khan is very interesting, because at one stage it was argued that Imran Khan himself was a creature of army. He was their blue-eyed boy, he was their poster boy. They had promoted him, they had projected him, they had supported him to be the Prime Minister of Pakistan. And once their differences cropped up between Army High Command and Imran Khan, they withdrew their support, and that's why he had to give up his office after the no confidence motion. But this time, the army is playing the game very, very carefully. Army realizes that the popularity of Imran Khan is unprecedented. Nobody in Pakistan before, ever since his birth, has had this kind of a popularity. People had argued that even when Bhutto was judicially executed by General Zia after a coup, people had said that Sindh would go up in flames, but nothing of that kind happened. And you must bear in mind the difference between the Bhutto and Imran Khan. Bhutto was a very charismatic, popular leader, but he belonged to an important dynasty. His own lifestyle was not very populist lifestyle. He was a populist slogan monger. He was an Oxford educated person. He was a mercurial, brilliant diplomat. He could move masses with his demagoguery. But the fact remains that his own career had been blemished because he had been the foreign minister at the time when Bangladesh was broken up into two, and some of the guilt had fallen on his head as well, that he had served General Yahya Khan and General Tika Khan, the butcher of Bangladesh. So Bhutto cannot be compared with, and Bhutto's, also let's not forget that we are talking of Bhutto's execution in 1978. We are talking of Bhutto's politics and diplomacy in 1960s. We are talking of Imran Khan towards the second decade, middle of the second decade of the 21st century. The world has moved, the Pakistanis have moved, the Pakistani younger generation has moved, internet is there, the people have access to social media and smartphones. So you cannot possibly get away with making either a martyr of a very popular person, or if you do not make him a martyr, then you have to yield ground to his popularity. Now, the fact is undeniable that Imran's popularity is unprecedented, unmatched, and very vast among the people of Pakistan, even in areas where Nawaz Sharif's family has traditionally exercised power. His younger brother used to be the Chief Minister of Punjab, and the family again is landowning family. It's not that Imran Khan belongs to a poor family. He belongs to an aristocratic family. He is an Oxford educated person. He was an icon and a national hero when he won the 1992 World Cup for Pakistan, and he's seen as a natural leader of men. He's at the moment, of course, charged with corruption charges, but these are trumped up charges, because what Imran Khan has made it very clear that this corruption charge pertains to an accusation that he had taken some gifts, paid for them, given to him during his state visits, and then resold them. And he's been doing this for funding a cancer hospital founded in the name of his mother. So nobody is willing to accept that Imran Khan is a corrupt person. Imran Khan is not, unlike Bhutto, a Sindhi. He is not a Muhajir like Parvez Musharraf or General Zia even was a Musharraf. He belongs to an aristocratic family, and he belongs to the mainstream Pathan community, and he has, of course, he has married a Jewish girl, an aristocratic girl from England once, who converted to Islam, of course. But nobody can accuse Imran Khan of not being an Islamic person. He carries tasbih with him. He also has made no bones about his sympathies to Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, who are at the moment at loggerheads with Pakistani regime. He also, his Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party, his PTI party, is basically sympathetic to the Islamic concepts. But he obviously is not a fundamentalist Islamic like the Taliban. He doesn't believe that Sharia criminal law should be immediately imposed and implemented like that. But he is not come out openly against the blasphemy laws and things of that kind. He may not have made statements like Qaid-e-Azam Jinnah that the minority should be free to live their own lives and practice their own religion when Pakistan was founded. Much water has flown. Pakistan has become a very, very Islamized, illiberal nation since General Zia embarked on this project. But interesting part is this, that the army realizes that army was discredited in past when Pakistan was broken up into two parts. Even then, the people had lost all faith in army. It had failed to protect the nation's independence and integrity. Independence was more or less preserved for namesake, but they were so dependent on the Americans for their economic support that only the army survived because the Americans found Pakistan useful for them in the context of the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan and subsequently their own campaign to kick out Taliban from the Afghanistan land. Now, this cooperation between the deep state of Pakistan, between CIA, the United States of America, the legitimate government, including Defense Department, Pentagon, etc., presidential advisors. Now, Victor Marchetti had once written a good book called The Invisible Government. So there is not only a deep state in Pakistan, there is a deep state in the United States of America. Similarly, there is a deep state in Russia, the deep state in Israel, deep states MI5 and 6 in Britain, Mossad, of course, in Israel. And you have this kind of a relationship between undercover cloaks and dagger instruments of state and their peers elsewhere. But Imran Khan, at the moment, is not a darling of Pakistani army because it was accused that he was trying to forge closer relationship with China and Russia. He was one of the first few prime ministers, heads of government, to visit Russia after Putin has launched his attack on Ukraine, and he had extended his support very openly. He is not reluctant to say that, look, Pakistan should serve its own interest and buy cheap at a lower price from Russia, but it should get aid from China. And of course, China and Russia have drawn closer after the Ukraine war. So what has happened is that Imran Khan has got several life insurance policies. He is closer to Russia, he is closer to China, he is making populist noises which let Pakistan know that, look, if Imran Khan has been accused of mismanaging the economy, but he, after all, was in power for a very short period, and he had to cope with the army's opposition, the opposition of other major political actors from Pakistan People's Party, Muslim League, Nawaz Sharif faction, etc. So Imran Khan can legitimately claim that had he been given time, he would have probably got aid cleared from IMF, he would have got aid from his Islamic fraternal nations, he would have got a little more time and aid from Russia and China. But what is happening is that the world has been changing. The world has been changing ever since Abraham Accords. The relationship between Israel and the UAE and Saudis is improving. The relationship between Turkey and Turkey's ambitions. Turkey is at the moment caught in the elections of its own, inflation of its own, but it also has ambitions of playing a mediatory role in fellow Islamic nations. It is a modern nation. It is part of a Western family system. And like Pakistan, it is not a fundamental Islamic terror supporting state. Now, of course, we'll go about Pakistan supporting terror later. But right now, the issue is the Pakistani Supreme Court has declared that Imran Khan's arrest was grossly illegal. He must be released in bail. They also asked Imran Khan to ask his supporters to restore law and order and only do peacefully. Imran Khan has been released on bail, but Imran Khan has not exactly done what the Supreme Court wanted him to do. Imran Khan has said he has exhorted his supporters to continue the protests peacefully, of course, on the streets, but they would be provoked. There are several hardcore, die-hard supporters of Imran Khan who have said that we are willing to die for him. And let's not forget that there has been a series of assassinations, political assassinations in Pakistan. We'll have a quick look at them a little later. There has been an assassination attempt on Imran Khan, and people have also suggested that the Pakistani army or the government might be having agent provocateurs among the protesters. There might be what they call false flag attacks to provoke his supporters and create a tension in the situation. Now, what these protests show very clearly is that there are two very clear-cut camps in Pakistan, the pro-Imran Khan camp and the anti-Imran Khan camp. What is interesting is that the army at the moment under General Munir is not taking sides. And if it doesn't take side, which means in a manner of speaking that it at the moment supports Imran Khan again. It is not willing to take on the rebellion, the tsunami-like rebellion of Imran Khan supporters, the countrywide. They might try to control it by bullets, by imposing martial law, although the army, General Munir has made it very clear that it's not going to impose the martial law. It would let the issue be decided by the political parties, civilians, as well as the judiciary taking decisions. Now, the interesting part is this, that even in judiciary, there is this divide. In the army, there is this divide, who Imran Khan wanted as the chief of the general staff, who was going to head the ISI. Is there no rivalry among the corps commanders who are supposed to be working in a coalition kind of a thing? But it is undeniable that the person who becomes the chief of the general staff is effectively the power behind the throne, power behind the curtain. But no, General Munir is not in a mood to take on the popular unrest today. Now, the reasons for that are not only the fear of Imran Khan or his supporters, which means if there is political instability in Pakistan, the IMF will not part with the tranche of aid which it has promised, billions of dollars, because it would not know where it would go, who would use it. Unfortunately, Pakistan, after the devastation of floods, after 2 years of traumatic experience of the COVID, is not in a position to get back its economy back on rail. Unfortunately, the Chinese have poured in money in Pakistan, but unfortunately, Pakistan has become only a rentier state. Pakistan is burdened by the Chinese debt. First, it was the One Belt, One Road initiative. Then it was the China-Pakistan economic corridor. Then it is the ports being upgraded. But the Chinese have also been targeted by insurgents in Balochistan. And the Chinese are not universally loved in Pakistan. Now, let's not forget that Pakistan also is a very diverse country. From Pakhtunkhwa, northwestern provinces, to Balochistan, to Sindh, to Waziristan, to Punjab. There, and within Punjab, there are regions. Within Sindh, there are sub-regions. So you have this problem of regional diversity, economic uneven development to begin with, highly gigantic corruption in the army. And earlier it was said 22 families rule Pakistan. There might be, give and take, a few more families, and which have come recently from the army background. But the point is, the Pakistani army is very clear that it doesn't want to deny itself the economic assistance it gets from Americans, it gets from Chinese, the kind of, though the Americans would look the other way, even if the Pakistanis are doing a very interesting deal with the Russians or the Chinese, because even in the present day context, in the context of Afghanistan, in the context of what is happening in Ukraine, it is context of future of post-Putin Russia, the Americans would always put their relationship with Pakistan and a higher priority than its relationship with India. So there's one thing which we shall go back when we are having a look at what this too much means for us. But this highly polarized nation, where army is divided into pro-Imran, anti-Imran, judiciary, even the Supreme Court is divided into pro-Imran, anti-Imran. Actually, the accusation made at the Chief Justice of the Pakistan Supreme Court by a daughter of Nawaz Sharif is very interesting, who says, look, why doesn't the Chief Justice resign from his post and join the party of Imran Khan like his mother-in-law has done? So, you know, this is crazy. India is not unfamiliar with such charges, but how you allege a charge against a person and divide the country is something which Pakistan is witnessing in an unprecedented manner at the moment. To make matters worse, we also have the historical political fragility in Pakistan. There is a long history of political assassinations, which began with Liaquat Ali Khan, the first prime minister, being killed mysteriously in 1951. We have Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's judicial execution in 1979 by his hand-picked general of the army, General Zia, who had a coup. General Ziaur Rahman himself was killed in a plane crash with a mystery has never been solved about the bombs exploding there. Then Benazir Bhutto, Mr. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's daughter, was assassinated in 2007 when she was campaigning. And that again is shrouded in mystery, that she was in exile in America. She was persuaded both by the Americans, the CIA, and the government to go back and take the reins of a civilian government. She was assassinated. Parvez Musharraf was then the head of the state. He had promised that he would provide all aid and safety for this lady, but it did not happen that way. There is also not only a long history of political assassinations, there has been a long history of coups. The coup, like General Ayub Khan's coup in 58, who reigned for 10 years. Then he resigned in 68 after students' protest movements. In 77, there was a coup by General Zia, who got rid of Benazir Bhutto's father. Then died himself, died in a plane crash. Then General Musharraf's 1999 coup, when he overthrew Nawaz Sharif, exiled him, impose a death penalty on him. He wouldn't like to get back, and survived somehow for almost a decade on his own, till he had a problem and a showdown with the judiciary. General Iftikhar Chaudhry was there. There were protest movements against him, and he ultimately also went into self-imposed exile to die of a chronic disease. Now, what this should not blind us to, it is not only the long series of history of assassinations and coups. Pakistan's foreign dependency has steadily increased. There are some figures, you don't have to cram them, you have a look at them and you just appreciate the scale. The aid from Saudi Arabia alone in 2014 was 1.5 billion US dollars. In 2018, it had risen up to 3 billion US dollars, and another tranche of $3 billion worth of oil was given. In 2021, in the middle of the COVID thing, another 3 billion US dollars came from Saudi Arabia, and 1 billion US dollars in deferred oil payments facility, which was to continue till 2023. Similarly, from UAE, Pakistan has received $2 billion US in 2019, and in 2023, it was pledged to provide an additional loan of $1 billion. Aid from Qatar amounts to, alone in 2019, to $3 billion. So you can see that all the Islamic nations on the periphery of Pakistan's border have been very generous in bailing out Pakistan. But now what is happening is the Gulf states, particularly Saudi Arabia and the UAE, are actively revising their no strings attached aid given to Pakistan. They are worried about their own future. They are not going to blindly follow the dictates of America and use as America's front to pass on aid to Pakistan, despite Pakistan being accused of sheltering terrorists and so on. Pakistan's foreign dependency is interesting when you notice that 78.3 billion US dollars, huge sum, was made available to Pakistan, kept it afloat between 1948, just after its birth, to 2016. And the stop was called only when Trump said that enough is enough. America is not going to fund Pakistan to survive like this. According to Pakistani economist Kaisar Bengali, Pakistan is now 100% dependent on China for financial and economic assistance for survival. Pakistan's economy has nearly been turned into the economy of a vessel, a rentier state. Investors don't believe in investing capital there. Pakistan's economy doesn't hardly manufacture anything. It also is not self-sufficient in food grains. Now, regional trends, it is easy to single out Pakistan and criticize all this. But let's not forget that what we are witnessing in Pakistan is something usually called the emerging regional trends of foreign dependency, the tug of war between forces committed to democracy, whatever form of democracy, and authoritarianism, some tinged with populist slogan making, a charismatic personality flashing like a meteor for a time and staying for a longer period, or also tinted with some commitment to an orthodox, illiberal religious position, which only can encourage a medieval mindset and not a modern mindset. Now, you could argue and say that this is what one can witness even in America, but Trump and his period. You can say it is Boris Johnson in England. You can say even Macron is not free from it, this tendency, authoritarian tendency in France. You cannot say that Putin is neither nor authoritarian nor religious orthodoxy. She might not be religious, but she might be committed to his kind of a Confucian creed, which is as rigid as any religious fundamentalism. You can say that Sri Lanka, again, has been fraught with large debts like Pakistan. It owes to China and also to investment banks led by US governed IMF. Nepalese politics in a similar kind of bind into pro-Chinese and pro-Western factions. Unfortunately, at the moment, there is no pro-India faction there. But then Nepalese politics is also burdened with economic debts, foreign dependency, and factions siding one or the other camp. These regional trends of authoritarianism, religious orthodoxy are seen as far away as in Indonesia. Indonesia in recent years has been trying hard to contain Islamic extremist threats ever since the Bali nightclub bombings. Even as late as last year, a suicide bomber attacked and blew himself at a police station in Bandung. He was protesting against a law which was maybe in his mindset going to legalize same-sex marriages. He was going to accept sex outside marriage. You might say that the people, conservative people in the countryside are against this, but the fact is that they do they express their opinion, the younger generations, fairly and equally? Or are they afraid of blasphemy law? Are they afraid of orthodox, illiberal Islamic segment leadership? Are they worried about the kind of vigilantes what they would be exposed to? Indonesia, again, is a very diverse nation, from Sumatra to Eastern Bariat and to Borneo. They have announced plans to set up a new capital in Nusantara in Borneo. They are combating climate change. That's what they want to shift from Jakarta to elsewhere. So there is unplanned growth, there is uneven development, and let's not forget that Indonesia is far better off than Pakistan. It is an oil-producing country, is a technologically sophisticated country, and it has not total dependence on foreigners for survival, its survival, or for its food grains. It has resources of its own. There may be mismanagement, there may be corruption, but the problem remains authoritarian leadership from Sukarno's days, then to Suharto's, then to the Sutions, then to Yodos, and then whoever takes power is very reluctant to leave it. You have the same kind of scene in Bangladesh. Since independence, Bangladesh has been dominated by two factions. One is quote-unquote pro-democratic Sheikh Mujibur Rahman supporters, the Awami League ones who brought the nation to independence and liberation, and Begum Khalida Zia, the widow of a general who in a coup overthrew the civilian government, and they were the perpetrators of the genocidal assassination of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's family. So this, instead of reconciliation since 75 to present day, when Sheikh Mujib was assassinated, we have been seeing this for almost half a century. The politics of revenge, the politics of retribution, the politics of bringing people to justice who had perpetrated the crime of genocide against their own people, sided with the Pakistani army. But even 50 years, half a century, has not healed the scars. And what happens is the country remains divided. The people who claim to be democratic, secular, or at least liberal Islamic are not entirely that. They also show strong authoritarian trends and dependence on foreign aid, maybe even from China. On the other hand, the opponents who believe that they are checking authoritarian trends, populist trends, charismatic leadership, authoritarian, are no less dictatorial, no less martial law oriented, and their support base is among the Islamic extremists. They are not loath or reluctant to use these ISIS people or Al-Qaeda people as their weapons and instruments to control the opposition, and this has divided the country also. The Rohingya refugees have made the matters worse. The climate change has made the matters worse, and Bangladesh is also, like Pakistan, forced to cope with climate change, population pressure, organized crime, unplanned growth, gigantic corruption, and authoritarianism versus that. All the review is not to point fingers at the neighbors. We in India have similar problems between authoritarianism and forces of democracy, separation of powers, federal structure, uneven economic development, growing intolerance. We are not saying this to look down on others. We are only saying that the world over, certain emerging trends have to be taken in a larger picture. And political instability and social unrest across the border is not in our interest. It is easiest for the Pakistani regime to point out at an enemy without for its failures and distract its people from problems at home. In all volcanic eruptions, we began by saying the lava flows in directions which cannot be directed by anyone. So will the lava of violence, lava of instability, Islamic intolerance, terror, separatism flow towards us if Pakistan continues to be in throes of this trouble? It would be naive to believe that Pakistan will disintegrate because it has the support of both the USA and the Chinese. And as long as it enjoys this support, as long as the geopolitical situation makes it sensitive for both countries, it is not going to dismembered or implode. It will remain a troubled state, it will remain a failed state, it will remain a bankrupt state, it will remain a state rocked by volcanic eruptions, big and small, in near future. It would be naive on the part of India to extend a unilateral olive branch, think of Aman Ki Asha will play up and make unilateral initiatives to bring peace back. India would have to manage its fraught relationship with its neighbor Pakistan on its own without expecting any support or mediation from either USA or the time-tested friend Russia. That is all we have for you this time. We would like you to think about these issues, ask us questions until we meet again next week. Goodbye.